Welcome back to another episode of Cheapskate Nation. Today we get to do something really fun. Check out what I got behind me. There's a trailer. That's a Camaro. That Camaro's getting LS swapped. That trailer so I could drive the truck, the S10 to the track and beat the hell out of it and not have to worry about getting it back home. So yes, we're upgrading things around here, but today we're going to be doing something really cool. We're going to be putting some race parts on the race truck. It's called, oh, we got the kangaroo dog out there. Welcome back to another episode of Cheapskate Nation. Today we get to do something really fun. Check out what I got behind me. There's a trailer. That's a Camaro. That Camaro's getting LS swapped. That trailer so I could drive the truck, the S10 to the track and beat the hell out of it and not have to worry about getting it back home. So yes, we're upgrading things around here, but today we're going to be doing something really cool. We're going to be putting some race parts on the race truck. It's called, oh, we got the kangaroo dog out there. Anyway, I was saying, so what we got going on today is we're going to be putting on some Motion Raceworks brake parts. I've been waiting a long time. I've had a kind of an issue with the vacuum pump. I put the vacuum pump in there to operate my powered booster, but for some reason it's just not working that right. It's almost like it's putting too much vacuum to the booster, and then it's causing it to lock up, if that makes sense. So it's overpowering the vacuum booster, and then the pedals just, there's no pressure in it. It's just rock hard. It's stiff as hell. And so we're just going to go with the manual brake booster, manual brakes. I'm the only one that's driven the truck. The idea was to have my wife drive it, but she hasn't driven it yet, so we're just going to make it a race car. And that Camaro that you just saw is going to get an LS. And at least right now it's going to get an LS. We don't know yet. We're not going to make any decisions, but I think it's going to get an LS, and or that's my direction at least, and that could be her little driver, and we'll paint that one all up, make it look beautiful, beautified for her. So let's go show you what we're working with today. So up in here, this box, we got the almighty kit from Motion Raceworks. And they use TBM brakes by Motion. At least that's the name of the kit. We got that. Oh. We got this. Put that aside. Ooh. Comment down below if this goes on the truck or on my son's changing table or his toolbox for when he's older. And in here, the Motion Raceworks Dum Dum. I hear they do that for every order. We got a boot. Whoa! And we have a new master cylinder. Perfect. So basically this sheet gives me a bunch of specs and warnings. What I don't know is this kit that kit right there, supposed to replace this and all of this down here on the 93 S10. I'm wondering if this all stays. So this is where I'm going to take a little pause, a job pause, and I'm going to go do some research and dig into what needs to be done to get this completed. So that way I have brakes. You know, 70 miles an hour down the road, you got to have brakes. It's a requirement. It's a have to. But once I figure that out, I'll kind of, I'll film kind of what has to go on, and then I'm just going to tearing it all apart and everything else, and then I'll freeze the video if there's any issues or anything else. So here goes nothing. So while I'm installing this kit, I ran into my first hiccup here, and let me show you what it is. So I'm still running drum brakes, and this is not only my rear wheel anti-lock brake system, it's also my 10-pound, fucking forgot the name of it, my 10-pound goddammit, that the directions say I need to keep. It's back here. That's for the rear brakes. It keeps a residual valve, is what it's called. It's a 10-pound residual valve. And so these holes in my original are not lining up with the new bolt holes. So what I got to do is I'm going to is what I'm going to do. You don't have to do this. I'm going to cut a slot in there, so that way it can go on to here and capture this one completely, but then it could be a little bit offset and just hold in there. I got to remember, I'm still driving this thing on the street, so manufacturers put in rear wheel anti-lock system, all because these things are so light that when you go to stop, the rear brakes can lock up really easily, and then it can cause you to skid, kind of like pulling a parking brake in a front wheel drive car. You know, you yard up on that, the back tire skid, you fishtail around, you end the ditch, hit a light post. You know, some of you have been there, some of you have done that. You know what I'm talking about. But so the rear wheel anti-lock brakes, I'm going to try to keep. I don't even know if mine works, considering I have a different transmission in this. But I'm going to keep the system just in case if it is still working. I'm not getting any codes in there, so I might as well keep it for now. Plus, it's one less thing for me to worry about reinstalling it. So, so far that's the only hiccup that I've ran into. The other one I'm not really super satisfied about, and I think it's just the bracket that I received. But let me show you too. These pins, or these bolts coming from the back side, they're not exactly straight. So is what I did is I went ahead and I clearanced them. This is a threaded bracket. All 4 of these holes are threaded, so it's like it bolts to the vehicle. But I went ahead and drilled those out just to get the bolts to line up a little bit better for the new master to go on, because earlier I was fighting the hell out of trying to get the master on because these bolts were angled. The ends right here and here were closer into each other than what they should have been. So yeah, I just clearanced the threading out of there so the bolts would slide. Now I got to just assemble everything. But before I put the master cylinder on, I got to bench bleed it. I'm not going to film that. There's 700 videos on how to bench bleed brakes. This is a video on how well a motion race works. Manual brake cylinder works in an S10. There's going to be some other important stuff that I'll probably get to next about the leverage of the whole system and where people fail with them. So real quick, I want to explain your pedal height for your manual brake system, because this is something that people do typically overlook. They don't quite understand or grasp the concept of what we're doing now. Since we're going to manual brakes, instead of having a vacuum booster to power the brakes, we're going to have a mechanical lever power the brakes. So there's a little bit of math and a little bit of geometry involved when doing this. Remember, the vacuum booster that powered the brakes originally, the average car can do up to 200 foot-pounds of pressure. I think it's foot-pounds, or adds 200 foot-pounds of pressure. So, or it magnifies your pressure that you're putting with your foot on the brakes, and it can do that up to 200 foot-pounds. So the problem that a lot of people face is they use the same pin in the lever assembly that the pedal's on, and they just put it in the same hole. Well, it's not the same ratio. It's not a correct ratio. So now is what happens is you have to put like 80 pounds of your leg pressure, like you're imagine at the gym pushing 80 pounds to get the same reaction out of that master cylinder of what the vacuum booster used to have. And that's not quite right. I got a little diagram. Let me show you here. So that's the master cylinder. This is, pretend that's the firewall. That's the rod that connects to your pedal assembly that goes in. And Motion Race Works, they call for a 7-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ratio. So that means for every 7 inches of this pedal, you need to install this right here, the ram rod, 1 inch away from the top pivot point. So this pedal, I measured it earlier in the S10, it's about 15 inches. So what that means is we can have this come from that center of the pivot point. That needs, a new hole needs to be drilled, and it needs to be mounted at about 2.3 inches or 2.13 inches, somewhere right in there. So just after 2 inches, and that's going to get us really, really close to it. And is what this means is that the further up this was mounted to that pivot point, the less leverage you would need down here to get the full stroke. But you got to stop and wait, because this still has to throw in at least 1 inch. If you put it up here at the very top, you're only going to get maybe a ½ inch of throw out of it. So you have to also come into factor. I measured how far this ram pushes into the master cylinder, and we're at about 1.25 inches. So I don't want to be maxing it out, so I think I want it at least 1.125 inches of throw for this rod, the ram rod right here. So after you piece together all this math and do it, you want to make sure that you have enough throw to actually activate this. Because if you drill this all the way up there, you're not going to have enough throw to actually push any fluid to your brakes, and that would be a problem too. So using mechanical leverage, you can still have manual brakes work just as well as powered brakes, and it not be a big deal. Alright, going back to my drawing here, I got this setup going on. I have this needle, this piece of weld wire right here, which you could do at your house. Most people have some sort of piece of wire. That's pointing down, and I made a dot to represent where it's pointing to on the brake lever assembly. Like that. This other rod coming out is going to represent where the pedal is at the beginning of its stroke. Now, when I measured it earlier, I have about 7.5 inches, maybe 8 inches of pedal throw that this pedal can go forward towards the floorboard. But the big thing that I want to check is that if I do a 7:1 ratio using this pedal, am I going to be able to have enough throw up here to actually activate the brake master cylinder? So what we're going to do is we're going to move this part out about 7.5 inches from here to the end of the pedal, and then measure up here how far it is. Okay, so I got the tape measure out. We're going to just bring it in until it reads about 7. And that's right about there. Now we want to come up here and measure straight across from that dot. Let's see what it says. That's about 1.125 inches, it looks like. So it looks like I will have just about the right throw. And that means that now I know I need to drill right there, straight across in the center for my new bolt hole. So now before I drill that hole, the other thing that I want to do is I want to mock up the master cylinder. I want to put the rod going out. I want to put the brake pedal back up in there. And then just get an eyeball and see if where the activation rod for the master cylinder is going to land on the brake lever assembly. It could be that it's totally way off just the way the truck's designed and built. I don't think it is. I think Motion's going to be pretty much on point with that, but and I think we'll be pretty good. Now remember, the closer up I drill that hole to my pivot point, the more mechanical leverage that I'm going to have, but the downside is I'm going to lose throw of the pedal, or throw of the ramrod. So you want to be able to have, I believe you want to have all the throw that you can get in the master cylinder. But so I'm going to jump in under the truck and do some quick calculations and see what I get. So there we go, we got the new master cylinder mounted, and I got to do a couple new brake lines, just short guys. I go from here and here down to here and here, so that won't be too hard. I think I'm gonna have to go down and get one fitting to make this work, or make the brake lines work. For some reason, I don't know, they look like they're different size threads. That's all I'm saying. It's kind of pissing me off, to be honest. But yeah, it's got adapters and whatnot, so we're getting close to getting there. I mean, I love how much more room there is and everything else, and the brake pedal's in the right spot too, so then we can just get everything else out of there, the interior buttoned up, take for a freaking test drive once the weather cooperates. Alright, so I got my new brake master cylinder plumbed into it, and one of the things that you guys have probably been waiting for, because you saw the thumbnail, is this guy right here. I figured for the first go around, I'd measure how much brake fluid that actually holds. And then when I go under the truck and actually bleed the brakes, I can pull it and I can get a rough idea of when I'm getting empty up here. So we're going to go ahead and fill it up. I got my brake fluid right here. Dot 3s. So I'm just wrapping up here, putting the TBM brakes by Motion Raceworks in the truck. I've had to make one new brake line. That's no big deal. Got that made. It took me 2 tries. I'm not a professional at it. I did rip out my tachometer wire, so I'm gonna have to fix that. And then I have a brake pedal again, so that's even better. I'd like to go out and test drive it, but it's pouring down rain and it's nighttime now, so I think wait until Saturday morning would probably be better. Overall, for ease of installation, I give this about a 6. It's not the easiest to install if you got the dash in the truck. If the dash is out of the truck, it's probably a piece of cake. But yeah, all in all, it went together pretty easily. I don't really know what else there is to say about that. Let me show you one thing though. So I kept all the rest of my factory ABS and everything else. I believe back here is a 10-pound residual valve for your rear drum brakes, and this is a 93 S10, so it still has the drum brakes on the back. But I had to plumb in a new line for the rear brakes all the way up in here. Obviously, it doesn't look perfect, but it doesn't look bad either, and it looks like it might go up and downhill, but who knows? Yeah, so that wasn't doing all of that. Wasn't too hard. There's just some extra steps in there. And then since I had air in the line here and here on the front and the rears, is what I did is I just went and took a big pry bar and wedged it into my brake caliper and pried it back open. When you pry it back open, it sends the fluid back the other way up through into the reservoir, like when you normally have to decompress brakes to do a brake job. So I backbled it that way. Now I got to do the same thing on the rear, so I'm probably going to do that in the morning. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. I hope this helps you out. And if anybody else wants to know, that brake lever, the pivot bolt, that's an 18mm bolt. But no, everything else works. I put all my brake brackets back, and brake lights work and everything. The truck runs, drives, does everything it's supposed to do so far. So we'll have to give it a good test run. Now I can get rid of this old vacuum pump here. I think I got another use for that here, maybe in another video. But have a good night or good afternoon. Or what's it like the Truman Show? In case I don't see you, good evening, good night, and good morning, or whatever it was. But no, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.